My Gavan and Melonin, and well met indeed. I'm Arachir Galadirathan, and welcome back to Divide and Conquer, as we bring you another Developer Diary, episode number 37. Damn, son, it's been going a long time. Right, this one is dedicated to Dunland, but there have been a few non-Dunland based changes since the last Developer Diary, and I thought I'd just cover those off first. So do check in the link in the description and you can see the jumping points between the campaign map and then the battle map and then Dunland at the end, which will then also be broken into campaign and battle map. So, no further ado whatsoever, let's dive in. Starting off with Mordor. Mordor now has pre-built watchtowers in all of Gorgoroth. And I thought that was worth starting with. So you can see the entirety of the plains of this despotic land. You can't see everywhere in Nirn, but that's to be expected. But in Gorgoroth you can. So if anyone does manage to get through the Morannon or the Minas Morgul, they can break into here. And remember that some time ago Cirith Ungol was removed as a settlement and is now just a fort. So do remember that, although that was in an earlier Developer Diary if memory serves. Right, then we're going to toggle Fog of War and have a look around the rest of the world. So, up next, a long list of nations have had updated campaign strategy models for their generals. But the list is so long that I didn't want to go through and do every single one. I'd basically just showing off every single nation in the game. So instead, you'll see that when we cover them in faction overviews when version 5 releases. But this fellow here, for example, is an example of one such change. That is a campaign strategy model. It is the actual model you see on the campaign map. And a lot of those have been changed. So major ones that will bring great joy and relief to many is Gondor's now have matching between their general and their non-generals, whereas previously they were designed by two different people and it was fairly noticeable. Similarly, Dol Amroth is the same, so their strategy models have been changed to match each other's design aesthetics. Bree have also got new strategy models, and generally speaking, so have almost every nation in the game. Genuinely, it is almost every single nation. So I'm not going to go through every single one and go about showing all of that off. If you play as the Elves, either Lothlorien or the Woodland Realm, and you reject the Alliance in favour of the elite unit, either the Berio I Engalaith or the Aradherith, then they are now available everywhere. Previously they were locked to Caras Galadon, Dol Guldur and Thranduil's halls, whereas now they're available everywhere, so that unit will see a lot more playtime if you reject the path down those sides. Also on the subject of Mordor, and partially while we're here, the temple units, i.e. the Dark Númenóreans that previously only came out of Durthang, have been expanded to the ancient Númenórean regions, which is a common theme. So a lot of nations get things in ancient Númenórean regions, and Mordor are now no different. So places like Tharbad and Númenas, Fornost, Isengard, Minas Tirith, Minas Ithil, places like that will now give you these Dark Númenórean temple knights. Although note that Minas Ithil doesn't actually, but Minas Tirith does. So Númenas, Fornost, Tharbad, Isengard, Amun-Sul, Dol Amroth, Umbar, and Minas Tirith. So if you're playing as Mordor and you conquer your way south, you'll get them in 3 other locations. So you don't have to keep training them at your homeland and sending them to the front lines, which you had to do previously. And next up, we swap over to Rohan to show off the new Northmen UI, courtesy of a gentleman called Pythax. And there it is, very, very clean indeed. I like the look of that a great deal. The UI will display whenever you open any kind of graph. As you can see here, it always shows off there, and you've got all the buttons. It affects so much about the design, but the buildings as well. But of course, the buildings will retain the original visuals. They're just set on this new backdrop now. Very clean indeed there, with the structures present as well. They fit on that background really nicely. So new UI for the Northmen. And right, that's all of the non-Dunland campaign stuff, so let's now jump over and see what new changes have come along to units. Alright, so starting us off, not actual units, and I'm afraid if you've come for the battle map, there isn't a battle map to this section, but there will be for Dunland proper. But first of all, 4 factions have had their unit cards overhauled, so Lothlorien, Rohan, Enedwaith, and Angmar, and you're looking there, of course, at Lothlorien, so new unit cards for all of the units there. Feel free to just pause and have a look. There's nothing more else I can say about these, really. There's Rohan as well. Oh, the dwarves looking far more like dwarves there, which is quite nice. And a uniformity to all of the designs. And we move through, and we come to Enedwaith, and there's Enedwaith's new units. I do like the Enedwaith unit visuals. And the Tir Chochoil, looking very nice indeed. And then finally on to number 4, Angmar have had new visuals as well. Oh, the Barrowites look cool. Barrowites looking very cool indeed. So there you go. Those are the non-Dunland changes. But now we get into the meat of this episode, and that is Dunland. So we'll jump back over to the campaign map and we'll talk through that aspect first, and then we'll come back and look at the entirely revamped roster. So stay tuned for Dunland. Alright, so Dunland in version 5. Now, first of all, Dunland has their standard intro message, which just gives you a general background information on Dunland if you don't know who Dunland are. But then also now, because of the amount of work that has gone into them, Lynx has rewritten a bespoke starting script message here, the Pact and the Wizard. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, because this is just a developer diary. In their faction overview, I may well go into much more detail, but note that for the script's lore background information, I strongly encourage you to read that script there, and feel free to pause it if you want and read it through here. But it gives you it gives exactly that, the lore background information on why you're going to do what you're going to do as Dunland. So that's the starting message. So before I talk about Dunland properly, let's just give credit where it is due. Note that, of course, I am no longer a member of Divide and Conquer, and the actual work behind Dunland I had nothing to do with. The ideas that have gone into Dunland started while I was still in the team, but I'm in no way claiming any of the accolades for any of this. This is all the team. And by that I mean now, Lynx did almost all of the coding, writing, and UI work for Dunland, and a gentleman called Larinian has done almost all of the visual work together with Coma. And they have done their work based on items created by Bill Baraka when he was in the team, and Castellan, who may or may not still be in the team, depending on the wording that I got from Lynx. But anyway, Castellan and Bill Baraka did a load of brainstorming and made some unit visuals for Dunland a while back. Then Larinian and Coma have then adapted those, modified them, and put them into the actual game. And then Lynx has tied it all together with the actual script and how it works. So that's where all the credit is due. So don't go thanking me in the comments. I mean, you're welcome to, but I haven't actually done anything, so don't do it. Right, so playing as Dunland now is going to be, as discussed years ago, like playing as Isengard 2.0. Because if you now play as Dunland, Isengard will be set to passive, which now naturally pushes you against your ancestral enemy, being Rohan. Isengard will, of course, no longer be passive if you attack them, but if you don't attack them, they will just sit out the entire game as a powerful city-state that won't do anything. You do all the work. You are tasked at turn number 1 by the message that you just saw. Saruman comes to you and he demands that you prove you are worthy, and you need to take 8 regions at the starting point of the script, and you have 60 turns in which to do that. Now, you have 3 at the beginning, so you only really need... Oh, well, that I don't know, actually. I don't know if you need 8 more or if you just need 8 total. I'd need to verify that, and I can do by the faction overview. But you need either 8 or 11. And in any event, you'll get them all from this sort of area. Enedwythe will be your starting primary enemy. But remember, Enedwythe, if you attack them early and attack them hard, generally speaking, don't do too well anyway. Now, if you don't manage to take the 8 regions by the 60 turns, or you attack Saruman early, then there's a very, very nasty auto-expansion for Isengard, and they will take up a lot of terrain that you've not taken, and will then start attacking you. So you are incentivized to claim these regions by the wary hand of Saruman standing behind you, a bit like the Sword of Damocles, waiting to drop. On your 5th and 7th conquest, you are given a custom general, which is a nice little touch. And then lastly, on your 8th conquest, i.e. the end of the starting point of the script, you get Lurtz as a general, along with the ability to unlock and recruit Orthanc Guard and Orthanc Wardens from your capital in Beirig. Remember, the capital of Beirig was changed to Beirig. That was one of the last things I did before I left the team, because this region here is the actual region of Dunland. These two aren't actually technically Dunland, so the capital was moved from Dunrak to Beirig a while ago to be more lore accurate. Once you've taken your 8 regions and Lurtz joins you, Saruman then comes to you and says, well, you've proven yourself rather well. Can you go a step further and reclaim the Hornburg for me before I have to use my own armies to do it? And you then need to take Helm's Deep. Once you've taken the Hornburg, or Helm's Deep, use whichever name you like, then you are able to train your 2 Wolfguard units. These are 2 highly elite Dunland units. And they come from certain landmark-based buildings, similar to High Brennan's Roost, which is in Beirig there, which is your new diplomat building. So you've taken the Hornburg, you've got these 2 unique units, you then go a stage further and you reclaim what is rightfully yours, depending on who you ask in Dunland, and that is the throne of Edoras itself, Meduseld, the Golden Hall. So you need to go and take Edoras. Once you've taken Edoras, you get a unique upgrade to Meduseld, which turns it into Wolf's Hall. Wolf being the only person in Dunland who ever actually managed to claim the throne of Rohan, although he didn't do it for very long at all, and he was usurped almost immediately by the quote-unquote rightful heirs of Rohan. Although, of course, Lord of the Rings is written with a Rohan bias, so you may think he was usurped, you may think he was quite rightly dethroned. But anyway, you rebuild, you upgrade Meduseld into Wolf's Hall in honour and memory of him, which unlocks your uber-elite units. So units for Dunland that can compete with the rest of the world. Units that can take on dwarves and the Númenóreans, for example. And they are called Heralds of the Twofold King. Also, at that point, you then unlock cities, large cities, and strongholds. So Dunland rises to glory, in essence, by starting off by just proving you can do it by taking 8 regions, then taking the Hornburg, then taking Edoras, and you get these various rewards as you go along. If you decide, I don't want to bother with Rohan, and I'm going to backstab Saruman instead, then you can, and you are then tasked with taking Isengard instead of Helm's Deep. But then you unlock the same Helm's Deep base rewards, so you'll get the Wolfguard once you take Isengard instead of Helm's Deep. After you've taken Isengard, you then move on to Edoras by your own volition. So the script continues in the same way, you just replace the Hornburg with Isengard en route, and then have to fight 2 enemies instead of 1. So the choice there is entirely yours. Dunland have also had their recruitment system changed, and they now have 2 different types of barracks. One is called the how is the pronunciation of this word? Frekelingir, and the other is the Dunherd barracks. So there are 2 types of barracks for Dunland now, Frekelingir and Dunherd, and each one gives you different units, and you can build either barracks in any region. So in Dunlarak you would choose Frekelingir or Dunherd, and then you choose the same in Beirig. So you can't have the same barracks, you can't have both barracks types in one region. This is something we've seen before, we've used it before in DAC when I was still in the team, and Anduin is quite well known for having the 2 different barracks types, although I think it has 3 actually in the Anduin. But anyway, so you get 2 different types of barracks. They also have subtle other benefits in that the Dunherd barracks trains Enedwaith units from Enedwaith, and the Frekelingir barracks trains Rohirrim units. Well, Rohirrim units isn't correct. Trains Rohirrim in Rohan, but they don't train those troops in each other. So building a Dunherd barracks in Rohan gives no extra benefits, and building a Frekelingir in Enedwaith gives no extra benefits. But they do if they're built in the other regions. Lastly, there is a little bit of an Easter egg for Dunland script if you keep one of your generals alive, but Lynx has deliberately not told me which general it is or what exactly this means, but he says that if you manage to keep a certain general alive at the point you take Edoras, there's something of a little Easter egg for you. So there's an incentive to basically keep every general you ever get alive right up until the point you get Edoras, and then you'll see and earn something unique. So that's Dunland script in a nutshell. To go over very briefly, Isengard no longer will have any part of the game unless you attack them, only if you play as Dunland. If you don't play as Dunland, Isengard are just like normal. You are tasked with taking 8 regions. Once you've done that, you take either Edoras or Isengard, depending on if you want to fight Rohan or Rohan and Isengard. And once you've taken Helm's Deep or Isengard, you then have to take Edoras. And once you've rebuilt the hall, Wolf's Hall in Edoras, the script ends, you unlock all of your boons and bonuses, and you are then free to just play the game out as Dunland thereafter. So it very much forces you into attacking Rohan now if you want your best units, which it absolutely should. Dunland is Rohan's ancestral enemy. Saruman, in the grand scheme of Rohan's life, is actually only a threat to them right at the very end of the Third Age. Dunland has been at war with Rohan for years. Pretty much since Rohan was founded, Dunland has been their enemy because the Rohirrim pushed the Dunlendings out and made them settle in Dunland. So Dunland lost its ancestral home to the Rohirrim, and they've wanted it back for the past 400 years. Saruman has only been around for the past 50 years in terms of Rohan's history, so as you can see, Dunland should be their enemy, and that is what they've been made to be. Along the way, lots of unique ancillary and traits have been, or ancillaries and traits have been added with very specific lore flavour for Dunland. So there's a good incentive to have a little read around and find out everything you can about your faction leaders, your heirs, your generals, and all the different bits and bobs. Buildings and things will have unique descriptions as well, all building this sort of DAC verse lore for Dunland, so expanding on Dunland's otherwise non-existent lore, sadly. So do have a read around if that's your sort of thing. But that's the campaign side for Dunland. Let's just have a look at the strategy models and the like for the peoples of the hills. Here is our king, Yag-Thak, and then we can get a captain out there. Oh, very stripy. Very, very stripy indeed. Let's just make sure that Yag-Thak's not unique, and he is indeed. So this is what your faction leader will look like. I doubt that is unique to Yag-Thak, and I presume that is whoever your leader is will look like that. A standard general looks like this fellow with the big shield, which is pretty cool. Well, I think that's very cool, actually. And then your captain looks like that fellow with a stripy cloak. So those are the strategy models for Dunland. You've seen these strategy models before, because they were changed a while ago. They are just the Wildmen models. And then, of course, they use the Northmen UI, as you can see down below, that I showed you earlier. So that's the campaign side for Dunland. Now, I'm not going to go into massive detail on the stats of any of the units. We're just going to look at them and comment on anything that's particularly unique. And we'll start by taking a look at all of their unit cards first in the campaign, in the battle menu, and then we'll jump into the battle map and have a look at Dunland's new roster. Right, so starting us off then, that is what Dunland's roster looks like now in terms of unit cards. And so before we've even seen any of these units in battle, you can see straight away that they are visually really distinct from what we've seen before, just from the unit cards alone. They've got quite a nice healthy roster looking at that, with a lot of options. Some of the cavalry looking very cool there. And a lot more heavily armoured and unique designs than they've had in the past. I think they're going to look very, very cool. But let's just jump back and show you every unit they get, so you can see some of the Enedwyth and Rohan things. So we've got Uruk-hai Raiders added in, Fowland Border Guards, Berserkers, Fowland Warriors, sort of... there are some elite Enedwyth units there, Guardsmen, but mostly sort of early tier things from Enedwyth and from Isengard. Uruk-hai Archers there. We've got Dovesheath Foresters, those are another Enedwyth unit. And at the bottom here as well, we've got Mordag Fishermen, and we should have Rohirrim. There we are, Rohirrim Archers and Rohirrim there, and then there's a dismounted one, is there not? Or is it just the mounted? No, it's just mounted. So a few extra additions from Enedwyth and Isengard, but not loads. So your roster isn't going to just be, here's Enedwyth's roster, go out and play with it. You just get a few hand-picked units from Enedwyth and from Rohan in, as I mentioned earlier, the Frekelingir or the Dunherd Barracks, depending on which one you pick. So, let's jump into the map then and actually have a look at what these bad boys look like. Welcome then to the battle map for Dunland's new roster, and straight away they are looking absolutely fantastic. So, let me just repeat, I'm not going to go into masses of detail. This is just purely for the visuals. If a unit's looking particularly interesting, we might then also just double check to see if it does anything particularly unique, but that's more dealing with the later game units as we get to them. And we're going to have to do this in two halves, because most of Dunland's roster now gets a visual upgrade when they upgrade their armor. So I have doubled every single unit so that we can see who does and who doesn't. So starting us off there, we got Clan Spearmen looking far more like what you would expect for a Dunlanding based unit. Wildmen, truest to form. They have no real armor to speak of, and they just look like barbarians. Upgraded version is not changed from the lower tier version, so Clan Spearmen not getting a visual, but that I think that's going to be few and far between. You can see there's a new standard for Dunland as well, though it looks particularly dwarven in its nature, particularly with the runes in the centre. But with the, is that an eagle or a hawk or something on the top? That's very cool indeed. I think that looks really, really good. The captains and officers all looking very nice as well, and very much looking like things to come. And there is the actual captain model. So if you ever fight in a battle without a general, that's what your leader will look like. And then these are the standard officers, who I assume take the visuals of later tier units. But they look very nice, and we'll see them again in a moment. Moving along then, we then come to Dunlanding Raiders. Again, having that very poor Middle Ages kind of vibe to their design and their visual. And not looking like anything particularly threatening, but still looking really cool. I like this type of hat very much. I think that's cool. I mean, I think the hat looks really stupid, but visually it looks really good to have variety like that in the mod, and I'm very, very chuffed with that. Again, I didn't make it, I just really like it. So those are Dunlanding Raiders, and then the upgraded version next to them as well. Again, no visual for these lower tier ones, but that is to be expected. Because these are sort of the barbarians. You can't polish her, as they say. And then we have another banner as well. This one looking far more Dunlanding. Very, very cool indeed. A little shrine around the raven this time, and the double raven head on the banner. That looks very nice. These are Warband Host. So I should imagine a sort of mid-tier spear unit. Yeah. Not unsurprising there. Very nice, unique armor design. Again, really high quality visual. And it always goes to show that quality over bizarrity, although bizarrity is not a word, oddity, I suppose. Quality over oddity is always better. And this unit visually just looks so clean and crisp. And I think that really makes it stand out. That is a really, really nice looking unit. And a lovely little touch with the raven wings on the back as well. That's very nice. Very, very... I'd like that unit a lot. I'm looking forward to playing as Dunland all the more now. This, I should also say, is the first time I've seen any of these visuals myself. So we're all watching them firsthand. That's the only problem with having it on 0.1 is when lightning flashes, it takes forever to go away. So we're going to have a bright ground for a little bit. Apologies for that. Right, let's move along then. Next up, we have the Warbound Blade. So similar verse, exactly the same, but they just have a sword and a shield instead of a spear and a shield. So you can have a little look at the shields and things. Again, really high quality shields there. This armor does not look like it would be out of place in Skyrim. And I know that's totally unrelated, but I've played so much Skyrim and seen so many armor mods for Skyrim, and this just screams Skyrim-themed armor mod to me. But it looks really, really good. Now, this Warband Blade does seem to be getting upgraded, or do my eyes deceive me? No, they're just, some of them just don't have the capes around their shoulders don't cover them as much. But very heavily armoured to begin with anyway, looking very, very good indeed. So those are the Warbands. Then we come to Brennan's Guard. Brennan's Guard has a unique name, so I'd assume would be better. Yeah, no, they're pretty good indeed. 10 attack, 7 charge, 19 defense. A really good, solid, hold the line type unit, and very late game as well. They're going to give Gondor a run for their money. Very, very nice unit again. Very heavily armoured, and look at the visuals on that, particularly with this sort of double badge system. This is fantastic. These look absolutely amazing. The quality here is obscene, and absolute props to anyone who's worked on this. We have another new banner, really going for variety with banners. I think that's very cool as well. So there's Brennan's Guard. Brennan's Guard upgraded, no visual change there to my mind. Nope. So then we move on again, and we come to Wolfguard Axemen. Wolfguard are the units that become available to you when you take either Isengard or Helm's Deep. And they, again, look very, very nice indeed. Late game armor-piercing Axemen as expected based on the visual. Very, very high-quality weapon. Look at that. Oh, I've just told them to move. They're going to hate that. Whoops. But there we are, Wolfguard Axemen. And there's their upgrade, taking on a very Isengard-inspired upgrade indeed. I do like that helmet. It's obviously Isengard-based, but with just slight details and slight personal touches. I think that's fantastic. That Isengard upgrade looks really nice. Let's see what they look like behind. Capes on some, but others just wearing chainmail. So the plate's all on the front. Oh, that's a nice little touch as well. These units look absolutely fantastic. This is outrageously good. Absolute props to whoever put the time and work into these. This is, if I don't, if I may say so, and it may ruffle some feathers, but this is some of the best unit work I think I've ever seen in DAC in the 7 odd or 8 years that I was on the team. And this is such a shame whoever created that has not been around for years, because so many other rosters could have this high level of quality. It's fantastic. Then we come on to Orthanc Guard. Of course, the Orthanc Guard is a unit that's already in the GIMP mod, and they look like this fellow at the moment. So they've been redesigned to look like this. So again, taking on that bespoke Isengard-inspired design. Very, very cool indeed. But they are, in all forms, though, still the same unit. They use crossbows first. When they've done with the crossbows, they have excellent spears and shields. So a very, very nice unit indeed. Oh, no, sorry. At the moment, Orthanc Guard occupy only a spear and shield role, and that's all they do. So this Orthanc Guard is a crossbow, then heavy pavis and spear unit, and the Orthanc Wardens, who we come along to over here, are an interesting two-handed sword unit. Do you have armor piercing? Frightened nearby enemy. charge without orders, but not armor piercing. So they are just a two-handed, aggressive, heavy warrior. Look at them. They look absolutely awesome. I like, again, the variety in weapons. Some have this giant, ungainly sword, and others have a sort of Naginata-inspired weapon. It's very cool indeed. So those are all thank Wardens, and again, no visual upgrades. They already start looking as good as they already do. And then we come to Clan Hunters. Now, Clan Hunters are something that many people have wanted in the mod for years, and Lynx has pushed ahead and done it. They are a slinger, and they have a slinger animation, and we will try and show that. So I'll try and run them in when I've shown that other unit over there before we swap over to the other half of Dunland's roster. Another new Dunland banner, looking fantastic as well, getting some real variety in the banners. But otherwise, it's the model of the clan that we saw at the beginning. So Clan Hunters are slingers now. Very, very cool indeed. I don't know if their animation is actually yet in the mod, so it might prove to be futile, but we'll send them in anyway. And then we come to Dunherd Warriors, and Dunherd Warriors with an upgrade. So again, let's move these. Let's just speed that up. And then they'll all stand up. There we go. And then drop that down to 0.1 again so that we can pause it without having the big pause thing in the way. And there we have Dunherd Warriors. So a leather armor by the looks of it, and can hide anywhere, as we know, because we are not in trees at the moment. A very nice looking unit indeed. Double-handed axes and axe throwers, I presume. Yeah. So an axe thrower with then a two-handed axe afterwards, and they upgrade to look like that, which is very cool. And is very reminiscent of the early tier Candish designs way back when I first joined the mod. They were based on sort of Mongolian heavy armor. And that looks really, really similar with these sort of upper arm plates. You can see underneath the same cloth and leathers that the unupgraded version is wearing. They've basically just put the padding on top, and that is awesome to my mind. Absolutely awesome design. Oh, they want to move in some ways, but others they don't. Right, before we jump over to the rest of Dunland's roster, I just wanted to show you as well, the Serpent Guard have been redesigned and now look like this for Harad. So we've got Serpent Bladesmen, and then you've got Serpent Archers, so they look the same, there they are. And then you've also got the Black Snake Guard, although the Black Snake Guard I think were redesigned a long time ago, so this may not be new, but I thought I'd throw them in and show you anyway. But that's what Harad's General's Bodyguard now looks like, and this is what Harad's Elites now look like. Do note as well that Harad's Garrison unit, which are just called Southron Defenders, when they are upgraded, i.e. when you build the second tier of the garrison building, they will also look like this. So you will see this unit around a little bit if you ever fight down and around in Harad, but it looks really cool. A lot more of a theme, of a Mumikil based theme, with that sort of bone colouring on the armour of the Serpentmen there. And of course they've got horns now sticking out of their shoulder blades, which is pretty cool. But let's just speed this up, and we can hopefully get the slingers to fire. So let's move them into position and get them to go. Let's see if they do have a unique animation. Yes, they do indeed. So they pop a stone into their sling, swing it behind them, and launch it. So they are very, very similar in the actual attack is almost identical to that of the hobbits, in that they basically just throw a stone. But now they have a unique animation for throwing that stone, and that's what's cool. And that looks really, really good. Again, this new team is taking DAC in such a positive direction, and I really hope it continues, because this is one of the best overhauls visually I've ever seen of any faction in Divide and Conquer. And I would take this just days and days and days. Give us more of this. I want to see what this unit looks like with its shield out, because I love a big shield. I know that in practice, a shield of that size, you wouldn't really usually have a shield of that size. You'd either plant it in the ground and then use it as a wall. You wouldn't actually go into battle with it on your arm. But it looks damned cool, and fantasy games often lean into that. They always have giant shields. And there they are with their shields down, spears behind. Oh, it's not too big when it's actually on their arm, is it? Quite akin to a Roman shield. That looks very, very cool indeed. And that visual is just fantastic. This is looking fantastic. But anyway, that's the first half of Dunland's battle roster. Let's jump over and see the rest. The mounted and the archers. Alright, so to finish off Dunland's roster, we've got most of the Frekelingir and Dunherd units here. But we're starting off with an all-rounder again, the Warband Sentries. We've already seen this visual, so it's just to show you that you get a Warband, which is an early tier unit, 13 defense, 5 attack, 6 melee, 6 missile and 5 charge, but the early Dunland units are crossbowmen, not archers, so do note that. We've already seen the crossbows with the Orthanc Guard, so crossbows being a bit of a theme for Dunland. And again, they have that banner as there. I don't know then if that banner denotes that it's a ranged unit and certain banners are cavalry. No, because we're seeing that winged raven on a cavalry unit over there. But there may be some theme to the standards. Then we have Dunherd Slayers. So remember, Dunherd versus Freckelinger is the barracks choice. So anything without those names, like Dunlending or, as we've seen with Warband and Clan, they'll be available to whichever barracks you choose. And then Freckelinger or Dunherd is the choice you make. And at the moment, it's seeming very much that Dunherd focuses on archers and aggressive two-handed attacking units, and Freckelinger is just all mounted. So you're basically choosing between infantry and archers or cavalry. And next up then, so Dunherd Slayers falling into that line, we've got an archer unit. 8 missile attack, that's outrageous. So they're as good as rangers. Human rangers always have high missile attack of around 6 to 7, depending on other features of them. And do they have the range to match as well? 220, yes. So they are a human ranger. But they've retained the name of Dunherd Slayer rather than Dunherd Rangers. And it looks like they have a two-handed spear when they finish with their arrows as well, which they had beforehand. Again, no visual upgrade here. They are just, you're out in the forests, out in the wilds, hunting down your enemies. And then we come to the Freckelinger. So remember, Dunland don't have the ancestral backing of horse lords that the Eotheod had, the people that became the Rohirrim, who obviously were horse masters before they were the Rohirrim. Dunland weren't renowned horse masters, but then history is now so intertwined with Rohans that they have picked up, obviously, a lot of the tricks of their erstwhile cousins. And the Freckelinger Harriers are the first that you'll get in that line. 6 attack, 13 defense, early tier, good charge cavalry. And visually very nice again. A totally unique visual that we've seen so far. Or rather, we've not seen so far because it's unique. And then there's the upgraded version on the left. I don't think there's an upgraded change there. No. So that's the Freckelinger Harriers, your starting cavalry. Very nice indeed. Then we come to Freckelinger Stalwarts. And a much, much heavily armoured version. And the quality of even just the face meshes is fantastic here. Who has made all these models? These are outrageous. It screams Coma to me. Coma always had one of the reasons why I reached out to Coma when I left the mod is because everything he's ever made has always been such high quality. But I'm really hoping that if the other gentleman whose name is Lerinian, it's a name I don't recognise. I think he's come on since I left. But if he's had a hand in this, then fantastic. 2 people with skill like this is just brilliant. But anyway, these are Freckelinger Stalwarts, 8 attack, 10 charge, 17 defense. Much, much better charging cavalry. They are going to do really, really well. Very, very good mid-tier cavalry unit. There's their upgrade on the left. I don't think there's a visual upgrade there, but they're just looking really, really, really nice. And of course, pause it and look at it in detail if you'd like. Then we come to the Heralds of the Twofold King. Now, these are a bit of a spoiler, really. This is the unit that becomes available to you when you've rebuilt Wolf's Hall in Edoras. So this is your most elite unit. And I imagine their stats will reflect that. 22 defense, 8 melee attack, 6 charge, 9 missile. Effective against armor with their bows as well. Or are they axe throwers? Ah, they're axe throwers. So armor piercing melee attack, though. So they do follow up with an armor piercing after that. Oh, that's interesting. They've added model and unit by Bill Bracker and Lorinian with help and assets from Coma, Castle of Angmar, Taurian, Reaper, White and the Black, Melkon, Reaper, and Finn. Jesus. Really? Is that? Did you sign some agreement to have to do that? And why would you put that at the top? Why would you get into modding just to let everyone know that you did it? I worked on the mod for 7 years, didn't write my name anywhere. Well, I think that's just. No, anyway, I shouldn't turn the video into my poor opinion of that, but I just think that's a nonsense and totally brings you out of wanting to read all of those. Every time you've got to scan through the names of people, you have no idea who they are who've done that. Anyway, that's by the by. Heralds of the Twofold King, your best unit on the cavalry front, looking very, very nice indeed. They're a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of their visuals. Some not looking as heavily armored as others. Some they don't have the sort of uniformity. If you've been around in the channel for a while, you know that I love uniformity, and a unit like this is absolutely top notch for me because underneath at their core they all look the same, and then they've got the odd personal flourishes that people going into battle might have. And that's what I really, really, really like. Some of them have different helmet styles, which I think is cool, different capes, things like that. But fundamentally, the unit is nice and ordered. This one looks a lot more like a group of people who've been told to go to war, and they all happen to have armors of their own designs, so they've worn them all. But they do look cool, don't get me wrong. So anyway, those are the Heralds of the Twofold Guard. They don't have a visual upgrade because they are already like that. We've seen the clans already, but these are clan axemen. This one is a mercenary unit, so I imagine will be available to quite a few other nations, or it may not, but it is currently tagged as a mercenary unit. So I imagine some people other than Dunland will get this unit. Oh no, and this one also has that whole long list of things. That's interesting. So those are the clan units. We've seen them already. Next up, we come to Dunherd Berserkers. Oh, and they're looking very, very Germanic in their theme, aren't they? That really could be charging in against Romans anytime now. And that looks absolutely fantastic. The white chest, in my mind, screams Isengard. That makes me think of Isengard, even though that isn't a white hand. But it's because we're so used to seeing the white hand symbolism of Saruman that's what that jumps out to me as. And whether they're going for that or not, I don't know. But in any event, it looks very, very cool. They're an early tier Berserker, though, so they will mostly be doing dying. They do have an attack of 6 with a charge of 7, and they are armor piercing, and they do frighten enemies, but their own defense of only 6, with 4 of that coming from defense skill alone, means that they are prime targets for arrow fire. Anything at range is going to massacre them. As you'd expect, they are wearing just a pair of trousers. And nothing else. No visual upgrade for them, but looking very cool nevertheless. Then we come along to Dunlending Long Spears. So pikes for Dunland. Previously, Dunland was quite a pike-heavy nation, but this now I think is their only one, unless this fellow next to us. Yes, they are Wolfguard's pikes. So you've got 2 pike units now, a very early tier 1, as we can see, with 5 defense. That's around the sort of farmhand pikeman level, isn't it? And they have a visual that we have already seen as well. That Dunlending one with a nice little hat that I spoke of. I think they look very cool, very thematic. That fellow looks like he's... I do not know what he's up to. He doesn't like the guy behind him, and he's letting him know that through use of his bodily functions. And then we come to Wolfguard Pikes. Wolfguard Pikes, of course, the other unit that you get once you take Helm's Deep or Isengard. We've already seen their counterpart, which was Wolfguard something, but I can't remember. I think they had a sword and a shield. But the pikes is the alternative. So you do get a late game pike unit, which throws my top 10 pikes video completely out of the water, sadly. But such is the nature of mods, ever changing, ever adapting. Their attack is 7, their charge is 6, and their total defense is 18. Very nice looking unit. And there's their visual upgrade into that Isengard inspired armor. Very nice indeed. Then we come across the last one then, Freckelinger Hill Riders. They are not a charging cavalry. So this is the type of cavalry that runs down routing units and tries to fight other cavalry where possible, or is generally in a real world setting might be designed to stay in melee combat. Well, no, in a real world setting, they charge into their enemy using the momentum of the horse to give them a boost. Then they dismount and go at them with an axe and a shield. But in Med 2, you can't do that. So they are the closest thing you'll get to sustained melee cavalry. Although really, if you've ever played Med 2, as you probably all have, you will know that you never leave cavalry in melee. But that's what this one mostly does. And it will probably be ever so slightly faster than the Spear one. Spear ones tend to get weighed down a little. So that is Dunland's roster. Now, I've just put Isengard over here, but there's nothing new to see over here. Other than you can see the old Orthanc Guard visuals, the Guard of the Hand there, and how they compare if you like. And then we've obviously got Augment Spear Guard and some Isengard themed trolls, but nothing of that is new. That's all just Isengard that's in the game at the moment. So Dunland, to my mind, that's the first time I've seen those visuals, and I think they are absolutely fantastic. I really, really like almost every single one of these. I think is some of the best work we've had in the mod in a while. I'm not too convinced, and now that I'm not in the mod, I speak freely, balls to it. I don't like this one as much. It doesn't scream to me that that is your most elite unit. When you compare it even just with something like this, there's something about this one. There's a clean and crispness to the shield that I think really sets this one apart. And this one just feels a bit of a sort of... There's something about that one that just jumps out at me of being off. And I can't really put my finger on it. But I wouldn't look at that unit and think, yes, that's my most elite unit. The two shields that we saw... Does any of these units have that visual that we saw? Oh, no. There was a unit in the first clip of Dunland's roster, and they had sort of 3 badges going up their chest, and that unit I thought as well looked almost more elite than the Heralds. But beyond that, everything else looking, in my eyes, absolutely fantastic. I really like the clean simplicity of units like the Clan Axeman. That unit just jumps out immediately. You know that's an early tier unit, and that's what I think visuals should always do. They should give you information at a glance, and units like that do that perfectly. Same with the Berserkers. You're looking at that unit and you're thinking, right, they're probably going to take down quite a few people because look how just absolutely crazy they are. But equally, if I shoot a bow at a man with no armor on, he's probably going to die. So again, it's all, that information is all conveyed just by looking at it. This one looks heavy. It looks tanky. This one looks obscenely heavy. Looks like you're really going to want armor piercing. I just love it. These visuals look fantastic. The changes to Dunland's campaign sound brilliant. I love the idea of pacifying Isengard. Not least of all because I started that chain off all that time ago. So of course I'm going to like that idea. But I should say I'm pleased that they stayed with that theme and carried on down the line of Isengard going passive. I really, really like that. It gives you a chance to take on your ancestral enemies and show the world who is boss. And I realise the hypocrisy of me complaining that they've put in the unit's info who created the thing, when I'm then telling you that I had the original idea, or I didn't have the original idea, but I was part of the discussions that started Dunland on this path. But that just because it came to my head, really. I don't really care if I didn't have credit ever. But I don't want the video to be overshadowed by my my support or otherwise to this, otherwise being the objective word. But let me know your thoughts on Dunland. Let me know your thoughts on their roster. Do the visuals make you want to play Dunland now? Does the campaign changes make you want to play Dunland now? Or has none of this mattered and you still think, God, Dunland is such a rubbish nation. Whoever plays as them. Let us know. I'm sure the modding team will be flicking through the comments of this video. They tend to flick through the ones of Divide and Conquer. And unlike all my other videos, in the link of this description is Divide and Conquer's own Discord. So my Discord is not linked in this video. So if you want to join Divide and Conquer and follow along their progress from the mod team directly, then join their Discord in the link below. But otherwise, that's all for this developer diary. Hopefully then version 5 should be soon around the corner with Dunland's major overhaul done. One would hope that there's just some tidying and some balancing and some polishing to go in, and then hopefully version 5 will come out. But I speak not from a position of authority, and I do not know. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and until we speak again, Nevair den Pedemad Melonin, and farewell.